sudden I hit April and it started to decline. May, June 2001, and I'm in June now. We have our book launch for our first book, and everyone is happy, everyone's excited. 3:15. It's a book that's doing so well. At our book launch, because I was so high during those months, I managed to see 35 schools and talk to 10 to 20,000, maybe 15 to 20,000 kids. And it paid off. We sold 1,000 books in one day at our old elementary school. But that didn't matter to me that night. Because that night and that week, this is how I felt. Although my friends and my family were celebrating and excited for us, I wasn't feeling the same kind of thing. And I was at an apartment on Elgin Street, and I was sitting there in the doorway, and I would constantly contemplate things. What am I doing? What's going on? Why do I feel this way? And it was a rainy day, a morning in July, and I looked out the window, and I saw people walking down the street, and I said, how could you be happy? I hate you. I would yell at the people through my window. They didn't hear me, but I was mad. How could they be happy and me be suffering? And so I would go to the doctor that day. And my doctor, who I hadn't seen in many months, because I felt so good, gave me 4 words. And it was like a stab in the heart, a slap in the face. It knocked me awry. And this was it. He said, you have bipolar disorder. I could not believe it, and I raced home, and it was still raining hard. And my sister came over, and I said, Julie, you're not going to believe this. Dr. Sweet said, he says I have bipolar disorder. I'm bipolar. And my sister was trying to calm me down. Oh, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. No, I won't be fine. I won't get married. I'll never have kids. I'll never have a job. People are going to think I'm a loony, a weirdo. And I started to self-stigmatize myself like I did in the mirror when I was teaching. I started to put myself down. And my sister said, don't worry. It will be okay. And my mom and dad were at the cottage and were on emergency, had to come back a week and a half earlier than normal. Because into the deep I would fall. And this quote is one that I use in a lot of things and will be using it in a new book that I have coming up. You never know what you have until you lose it. And I did. I lost my life. Never to be the same again. Now this next picture scares me every time I see it. And I mentioned a few things about this to the other groups. It's the number 60. There is a reason that that 6 is in red and that 0 is in black. What time of our history showed those 2 colors the most? Black and red. Somewhere in our history of our world, black and red, and it took over. It took World War II, that's right. The Holocaust, the Nazis. This was about to be my Holocaust. I was either going to die or come out almost dead. For the next 60 days, I would go into my parents' basement, in the dark, not any light at all, and I would lie there. And for over 60 days, this is what you would hear. I hate this! Dad! And my dad would come down. Yes? Get out of here! And I would roll. And I would put sheets over my head, and I would put blankets over my head, and I would put a mattress on top of me. And you can see the difference between mania and depression. Mania, feeling so good, yet very dangerous, and depression. And I'm struggling, and my mom's coming down, and this is the first thing she brings, I'll never forget it. She brings the lithium pills. She says, here, you gotta take these. And I said, no, I don't want them. And she said, you're gonna take them. I said, no. And she actually grabbed my mouth and threw those pills down. She said, you're taking them. And that day would start a pattern. Thankfully, where I would take the medication. And then while I was lying down there, over the weeks, my parents had to lie about me being down there. They said, "Where's Chris?" "Oh, he's at his place on Elgin." "Where's Chris?" "Oh, he's busy, he's doing a lot of things." I was in the basement. Only a few people knew. And people would come into my parents' house and I could hear them upstairs. "Teacher, writer, Chris has everything." And I wanted to just swear and yell at them. And there's a lot of four-letter words that I wanted to use, but I didn't. Instead, I said nothing. I listen, and I roll, and I recall the time when I found my diagnosis in July, Elgin Street. I didn't tell you this before, but I actually put a knife into my hand, and I thought to myself, let's do this. Let's end this. Let's get this over with. How can people, when they find out about me, I'm going to be shunned. It's going to be awful. I'm a sick person. I'm terrible. I'm no good. But that knife ended up back in my drawer, where it should stay always. I fought that. I was this close, but I fought it. My life was more important. I found that little bit of hope and I hung on to it. And for anyone who ever contemplates, look at me. I should be your example. I should be the person you think of. Think, oh my God, he was there and now he's here? Well, then I'm not going to do that. I'm putting the knife away too. People don't know this either. My colleagues didn't know that whenever I was driving to work over the year and a half, I used to drive and I used to yank the steering wheel, especially on icy days, hoping that I would go right into the ditch. Either I'd die or I wouldn't have to go to work, one or the other. And at that time, I didn't care which one. I would steer it and steer it and steer it. There was times I wanted to just keep driving past the school and go to Montreal or what. I just wanted to get away. That's how I felt. Guys, this gentleman here, I'm not making fun of you, don't worry. This gentleman here, he's amongst all of us right here. Put up your hand if you think he is not alone. Put up your hand if he's not alone. Okay, hands down. It looks like that on the outside, but on the inside, he could be alone as anything. Alone is not just the people around you. Alone is also what's in you. That's why when you're in the hallway and you're talking to kids and people, and you see that guy standing by himself all the time, or sitting by himself, or her, or whatever, that is extremely important time that you reach out. Because if they're by themselves right there and there's people around, but they still are by themselves sitting there, then internally they feel alone. That's how I felt. And I emphasize this next thing, guys. Please listen to me carefully on this. Suicide is never, ever, 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 ever a choice. Oh, it's 3:30 on a Friday. I think I'll take my life right now. No. Suicide is brought on. It is a decision because of three things: sickness, bullying, and lack of support. Those are the things that bring on suicide. You do not ever think that it's a choice. But you know what is a choice? The way you treat others. That is a choice. That's how you prevent a decision like that being made. I just don't care. Do I want to live? Do I want to die? Guys, look how old I was in those 2 months. You're thinking, oh, this guy's, 20. No. I was 26 years old. All my friends had moved on. And here I am in the basement, sitting there. And I want to die. And I just had to grab some type of hope to be able to get out of that basement. And my doctor said, Chris, I want you to step into the light for 5 minutes tomorrow. And then you can go back down in the dark for the day. 2 days later, I want you to step up into the kitchen and sit for 10 minutes, and then go back down. Today, I want you to go outside. Stand in the backyard for 2 minutes, and then baby steps. the littlest of steps. And when you're dealing with sickness, you got to remember that. You're not going to get healed right away. Like I thought I could heal that John got. Healing is a process. Do you know why it's a process? Because if I was healed right away, I would have fell right back into that a month later. But having gone through the healing process slowly, I have built skills, I have built strategies, I have done everything to ensure that I stay strong. So I worked and worked, and eventually he would get me out. And it's a little thing called this. Hope. Actually, it's a huge thing. Hope is necessary. If you don't have hope, then you don't see anything in front of you.